Yaz said. I won't lie, getting through is going to be harder than I thought. Any ideas? Tanya shook her head. The border wall design was agreed to by treaty last century. I can fly ahead and alert the border guards commander that you're coming, so he'll be ready to raise our gate. But no one from Rend, including me, will directly aid escaped slaves in crossing the border. That would be enough to start another war. Once you're across, I can promise you a warm welcome. If there's one thing the people of Rend hate, it's slavery. Fair enough. Yaz held out his hand. We can't thank you enough for all you've done. She gave him a firm shake. We helped each other. See you on the other side. Tanya whistled, and the wind spirits lifted her into the sky, high enough that she looked like a large crow, before turning toward Rend. Yaz watched her until she was out of sight, but his mind raced as he struggled to come up with a plan for getting everyone safely across the border. They had few weapons, and even if they were armed, 30 slaves would be no match for a fortress full of soldiers. No, direct confrontation was out. Stealth or magic were the only options. The walls didn't run the entire length of the border. Maybe they could just hike until they reached the end of them and enter that way. Yaz dismissed the idea at once. There might not be a wall, but Carttoom would have plenty of patrols. His jaw clenched. Their force was too small to fight their way through, and too big to sneak past. It was the worst of all possible scenarios. They'd figure it out, though. Yaz hadn't come this far to be stopped half a mile from his goal. Yaz started back down the hill. Silas and Wicked were off to one side of the gathering. The wizard was nibbling on a heel of bread while the undead dragon skull hovered over his head watching him eat. Silas looked up from his meal as Yaz approached. You look like someone kicked your dog, Silas said. What's the problem? Yaz told him about the border fort. Tanya's returned to her people, so it's just us now. I have no idea how we're going to get everyone through. As Yaz spoke, Silas began grinning like a madman. What's got you so excited? Yaz asked. Are you kidding? This is the perfect chance to test my necromancy with the dragon amulet. With its help, I can cast the paralyzing spell I used on the bounty hunters and expand it to affect all the border guards. If it works, we can waltz right past them. Will it work? Yaz asked. Silas shrugged. Won't know until I try. If you have another suggestion... Yaz didn't. In fact, he'd been hoping Silas would suggest something exactly like this. If it didn't work, they'd be no worse off, and if it did, they'd be home free. You need to wait until dark, right? Yeah. Then the fun begins. When the sun finally disappeared under the horizon, everyone was rested and eager to move on. The temperature had dropped another 10 degrees at least, and plenty of people had begun shivering. Yaz hadn't given any details about what Silas planned to do to anyone but Bridget. She'd seen the magic before, but he feared how the others might react. Necromancy had a bad reputation given how many practitioners misused their powers. On the other hand, given how desperate everyone was, they probably wouldn't have cared if Silas had to sacrifice a goat and dance naked in front of a blazing fire if it helped them enter Rend. While Bridget got everyone up and ready, Yaz and Silas walked up to the hilltop overlooking the border. Torches blazed all over the fortress on both sides. The tiny figures of guards patrolling along the battlements were only visible when they passed in front of a torch, blotting it out for a second. The gates on both border walls were down for the night. Tanya had said her side would open when they approached, but getting the Carttoom side open was their problem. The wind picked up, sending a chill down Yaz's spine. Fall was here, and it felt like winter was nipping at its heels. The cold would make rescuing the other slaves harder, but would also hinder the soldiers hunting them. He shook his head and focused. How close do you need to be for this to work? Yaz asked. Here is fine. I'll send Wicked to fly over the fort and channel the spell through him. I've never cast a spell this big, and even with the amulet, it will probably take a toll. Don't worry, Yaz said.